Thank you so much for participating in Brant Museum and Archives Museum Month activities. We really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Glad to be here.
So to begin, do you think you could give us a brief introduction about your museum and what you personally do there?
So our museum is the Bell Homestead National Historic Site. It is the original first home of the Bell family after they emigrated to Canada in 1870. Their first North American residence, as it were. The property in their day was a 10.5-acre farm, and it is where they came hoping that the changing climate would better their son's health. Alexander Graham Bell at that time was feared to be showing signs of tuberculosis, which his brothers had both died of. So his parents were hoping a couple of years in the drier Canadian air would better his health. Not only did it save his life, but this property provided him with the stage for the discovery of the basic principle for the telephone in July of 1874. So this is where Mr. Bell always gave claim to where he invented the telephone. And it is also where the first demonstrations of the telephone, the first tests of the telephone took place over real telegraph lines in 1876, culminating in the world's first long distance telephone call. So the house has been completely restored to the 1870 to 1881 time period that the Bells occupied the property. We're fortunate enough to have about 90% of their original furnishings, most of which they purchased here after settling on the property, as well as several hundred small items that belong to the family, personal items and household items that they brought with them from Scotland and England. We also have another house on the property that was moved here in 1969 called the Henderson Home. It was originally on Sheridan Street downtown and served as Canada's first telephone business office. So it not only has a recreation of the first office, but also shows how the telephone has evolved since its early beginnings as a commercial device in the late 1870s. Myself, I'm curator of the property, so I essentially manage the museum property and look after not only the buildings, but the over 800 artifacts that we have in our collection, oversee programming and general maintenance and management of the site.
Interesting. What is your favorite artifact at your museum?
That was a really tough one to kind of pinpoint because I have several. Because we have so many original Bell family pieces, it's really hard to just say this is my favorite. But if I had to, I would probably identify a watercolor portrait that was painted by Mr. Bell's mother, Eliza. She was a very accomplished artist, had started painting when she was quite young. And before she was married, she was actually supporting herself as a portrait painter and art teacher in Edinburgh. But when her boys were quite young, she painted a portrait of the three of them. And we have that original portrait hanging in the dining room of the house. And it really is a testament to how she felt about her family and especially her sons. This is a lady who married somewhat late in life. If you were 25 in the 19th century and not married and with a family of children, then you were pretty much labeled a spinster. And so Eliza probably had already given up any idea of having a husband and a family. She was 34 when she and Melville first met, and he was in fact 10 years younger than she was. So to her, it must have seemed absolutely unbelievable or remarkable that this young gentleman fell in love with her and asked her to marry him, and they went on to have these three boys. So she just revered the boys and their father completely, and this portrait really speaks of that when you look at them. Some of the other items we have, there is one table in the collection, a rather ornate marble and slate top table that the Bells brought with them to Canada. It originally belonged to Bell's grandfather and was his favorite piece in his own home in England, in London. And when he passed away, Melville being Alexander Graham Bell's father, knew this had been one of his father's favorite pieces, and so made sure that it stayed in the family. So it was created and shipped to Canada when the Bells emigrated. And then we also have a stuffed duck-billed platypus. There probably aren't too many of them in many homes today, but Alec had uncles that lived in Australia, and he did go to visit them and brought home a stuffed platypus. And so Platy, as he's been named by different students that have worked here or volunteered here, now sits in the library of the house. So those would
Yeah,
probably be my top three.
yeah, it's pretty unique to have a stuffed platypus.
Absolutely. Doing pretty good given his age.
What is your favorite story related to your museum?
I'd have to say 1997 when we hosted the royal visit. That was an unbelievable experience. It took 6 months of planning and a lot of learning of protocol and security and so on, but it was absolutely brilliant being able to take Queen Elizabeth II on a tour of the homestead. She was super interested. She toured the house very enthusiastically, commenting on various artifacts that she saw, and just reveling in the fact that she was in the home where the invention of the telephone was launched. And along with that, it was quite a remarkable day in the sense that not only was I presented to her, but our volunteers were presented to her. There were also members of the Bell family descendants that were presented to her that day, and one of which was Dr. Bell's great-grandson. And as he pointed out to her on that day, it was the first time since Alexander Graham Bell had been presented to Queen Victoria to demonstrate the telephone that the Bell family and the royal family had come together. So it was kind of an interesting observation on his part. But the youngest member of the family to be presented to her that day was only 7 weeks old. So he was there with his parents in his mother's arms and was presented to Queen Elizabeth. It was also the day that Queen Elizabeth officially launched from the homestead her own royal website. It was the first royal website ever put into place, and it was launched from the homestead that day. So, I mean, it was an exciting experience. It was a lot of work in preparation. We had over 2,000 people on the site and surrounding the site that day for the event. So it was a day for me where I became not only someone presented to the Queen, but getting to know more of the family descendants much better as well. And because of that day, I have stayed very close with these folks and become very close with them as friends.
Wow, that's a really exciting experience.
It was very exciting.
What do you enjoy about working at your museum?
I think the thing I enjoy the most is, and to be honest, I've been here 33 years. So you would think that there'd be nothing new I could possibly learn about the place. But this property has been kind of shrouded in a bit of mystery over the years because there weren't a lot of primary documents out in the public realm when this property first opened, and it opened in 1910. So as far as we know, it's the oldest historic home museum in Ontario. But Alexander Graham Bell was still alive at that point in time. So family papers were not in the public realm yet. They were still very much private things that were kept by Mr. Bell and the family. Over the years, though, as those have become public, and many of them are now in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we've gotten far more firsthand primary information about how the Bells lived here. So because there were 6 other families to live on this property after the Bell family, there was a lot of guessing as to how the house functioned in the Bell's time. And of course, everyone that lives in a house makes it their own. They make changes to the house. And for many years after the home opened to the public, the caretakers for the property actually lived in the house as well. So of course, they made their own changes along the way. So with the family letters, especially being in the public domain, we've been able to really put the house back together as Eliza Bell would have managed her household in the 1870s. And you would think by now that there'd be nothing more to learn about the house. But even recently, we made discoveries that what we thought was a storeroom in the house was in fact a bedroom. And so we recently restored that room and have it functioning as it should have all along. So those are kind of the things that have made the place so interesting for me. And of course, being from Brantford, right from a young age, being told that I live in the telephone city, this really does mean a lot to me. And being able to tell the story of the family as accurately as we can, and making sure that our visitors, our guests, leave having learned real history and not guesses, so to speak, and how it might have been for the family. That plus the fact that we see visitors from all over the world normally. Hasn't been happening so much over the last year, of course, but everyone seems to know who Alexander Graham Bell was and what he accomplished. And so going through our guest books, and we have every guest book from 1910 on, it is so interesting to see where people have come from to visit the house and to learn about the invention and the family. And being able to meet those people to this day is really exciting.
So my final question is there anything exciting happening at your museum this summer?
What will be exciting for us is if we can open the doors again.
Exactly.
I'm sure a lot of people are saying. We were open very briefly at the beginning of the year when museums were allowed to be open. We're still planning to go ahead with our day camps in August for children of the community or from outside of the community. So we're planning for that, hoping that we get the green light to do them. Unfortunately, special events are probably going to get pushed off until the fall again, as they did last year. But just the whole idea of being able to welcome people back again and start doing those interpretive tours and other programs is what we're looking forward to. Probably the most exciting thing for us has been taking our education programs online. Right at the beginning of the year, we were able to move practically every program we offer in person to virtual learning. And so the teachers have booked us up practically right through to the end of this school year with our virtual programs. So that's super exciting for us. And it's really kind of opened up the way for us to carry on doing the virtual programs even after the pandemic is over, so that teachers and their classes who can't maybe make the trip to Brantford can still learn about the homestead and get not quite the same experience, but get a good experience over the internet, which knowing what Mr. Bell started, he'd probably be pretty impressed with the fact we can do that now, and that you and I are doing this now, even, with technology that he kind of got us on our way with.
Well, that's it for all of my questions. Thank you so much for participating and helping us out with our virtual Museum Month events.
Absolutely. Good luck with all of those, and thanks so much for keeping Museum Month alive.
No problem.
All right.